Hello, Superboy Legacy fans. This is your Superboy fact checker here. Along with me is our editor-in-chief, the great and talented Tom Gallagher. Hey, Tom.
Hey, Chris. You flatter me once again. Thank you very much. Yeah, we should have a fun show for you today.
Yep.
I hope so. It's a bit of an experiment. We've not done this before. Chris is going to show us some of his custom figures that he's made over the years, some of his custom collectibles.
Yep.
I'm excited to see some of these because I've seen a couple of them and they are pretty damn cool.
Yep. These are all the ones that are related to the Superboy show. So, and of course the tie-in comic. Although the ones that are here from the tie-in comic are really from the special, which we don't like to talk about.
Yeah. You know, the special isn't the best issue of the comic, but you know, it had a lot of cool alternate, like, variant Superman costume designs in it. So, you know, I can understand why you'd want to make some custom figures from that issue in particular. Yes. So, yeah, should we just get started? If you want to choose one at random to show off to the camera.
All right, let's see. I'm gonna start with the ones that showed up on the cover of the special first. Okay. And for those of you at home who have the special, it's in the as you're looking at the cover, it's the right-hand side of the cover.
It's that one, is it?
Yes.
With no sleeves. Yes, with long hair.
Yep.
Yeah. So there it is.
And
you got his his special symbol.
Yep.
On the cape as well. I appreciate the fact that you actually did it on the cape.
Yep.
You know what I'm like when it comes to the LOS on the cape.
Yeah, this one was a bit of a challenge because first I had to find, bare arms because I didn't want to have to paint, flesh tone on DC Universe Classics shoulders because it would have looked awful. But what I did to make this is I had a broken Hawkman. And I had a broken Indigo Lantern Atom figure.
Right.
And that's what the upper body is. So the arms are the Hawkman. The upper body is the Indigo Lantern Atom. Now, the Atom had a hole in his chest where the armor piece attached. So I used Milliput to fill that in and then shaped it back into musculature. Then I painted the pieces in, I forget what the shade of blue is, but it's made by Citadel Paints, and it matches the blue of the legs perfectly, or as close to perfect as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell any difference on camera. Yep. It looks great. Yeah, once again, for the people at home, it is that one there.
Yes.
You can tell because he's not got the briefs and he's got, the bare arms.
And the little bracers. Now, the only difference that I did with this is...
Oh, yeah, the bracers on the cover are silver or white and yours are red.
Yeah, I
prefer it in red. I think it looks better in red.
Yeah, I think what was going on with that one is that they just lacked putting in color like they usually do. So I just made them red because it looked better, and there was not enough red in this costume.
Yeah, especially with you're missing the briefs.
Yep.
A little bit of extra red in the cuffs. It doesn't break up the costume in quite the same way, but it's nice to include it.
Yep. The head comes from a DC Universe Classics Kryptonian regeneration solar suit Superman. So that's the black suited Superman.
Yeah,
and
I figured it would have to be to have the mullet.
Yep.
Although I have got somewhere I've got a mullet Superman figure. I can't seem to find it at the moment. Although the cape did turn up recently, which is strange. I've just got the cape on its own. Like most of my figures, I lost the capes themselves years ago, but this one I've actually lost the figure, and I still have the cape somehow. But it's got the yellow S on it, which is nice.
Yep. This one took me, I think, about 96 hours to work on.
I wish I had the attention span to do something like that. I just don't. I think I would get halfway through my first figure and never finish it.
Yeah. One of the problems with working with DC Universe Classics figures is that you would think that because they're using, the same bodies, that's basically what they always did, Mattel. They would use the same bodies, and just, move this piece here, move this piece here. You would think that
it's smart, it's very smart from an economic standpoint, saves money.
But what you would think that they would have the same kind of because they all have the swivel wrists. You'd think they would all have the same style of swivel, and they don't.
But they don't.
Nope.
That's a bizarre choice.
So I had to go through my parts box to find the right ones to fit on this Hawkman arms. The bracers.
This is where my lack of attention span would do me dirty in this, because I would just go, fuck it, I'm just going to cut off the thing that connects it and super glue it in place. It would look terrible. You'd see the super glue seeping through the gap. And,
yep.
Yeah.
So the legs come from a DC Universe Classics Superpowers Superman. The last run they did for Matty Collector, when they had their website, they did 6 figures with the Build-A-Figure part, which was Calabac. And they were all designed to look like the original 1985 Superpowers figures.
Yeah, didn't they bring them back a few years ago for a limited run? Weren't there like a bunch of them they made up especially? I think I've got a reverse Flash figure that's made to look like one of the old Superpowers ones. I think it was, I forget where I even got it. I don't know if it's even official.
Well, I know McFarlane has just started redoing the Superpowers figures. They're a little bit tall. They're like a half an inch taller than the originals.
Well, that's cool. The originals were quite small though, weren't they?
They were 4 inch scale.
Yeah.
The only problem that most fans have with them is the capes. The quality of the material they use for the cloth capes sucks.
Yeah.
And
even in the 90s, the capes that I used to get with my Batman the Animated Series figures, they were crap. The little ring, half ring thing they used to have to attach it around the neck, like sometimes they would snap, so you just could never put that cape on again. But most of the time, the cape's just either ripped or disappeared, or yeah.
There's a guy on the web. He has a website. It's called the Cape Master, and he does repro capes for Superpowers and of course the Batman animated series, and I think they called it the Dark Knight collection before that, which is when they started doing Keaton-esque figures. But he does repro capes. Yeah,
that's cool. Good to know that if I ever do want to get my old figures shelf ready once again, I actually could get replacement capes. It's funny. As a kid, I really didn't like the plastic capes, the ones that were just, molded into one shape. But I don't know, I kind of like them these days. Like my Superman figure that I've got up there, which is a McFarlane one. It's the one they did for the Action Comics 1000. It's that figure.
Right.
And it's just got a hard plastic cape, but it looks pretty fantastic. The only complaint I've really got about it is that it's the Action Comics 1000 costume, except the yellow S has been left off the cape. So once again, coming back to the yellow S, but yeah, that version of the suit, if it's supposed to tie into that specific comic, kind of needed the yellow S on it. So at some point, I may just get a sticker or something of the yellow symbol.
If you want, I could actually make one up for you to glue on, and I could just
Well, the cape is attached. Yeah. The cape doesn't come off on this one, so.
Oh no! I meant mail you the
mail you the sticker.
Yeah.
I thought you meant make a cape. I was going to say.
Oh no!
was gonna say, how the hell are you gonna do that?
Yeah,
Like,
I make my own symbols for these figures. So
well, if you want to send me a sticker, it's not going to cost too much.
yeah,
But
yeah. So
it
so
might
the
just be easier for me just to make one up myself. I'll get some
yeah.
basic white sticker paper and just draw out the symbol and color it in. And
Yeah. So on this figure, like I said, the legs come from that Superman. Um, the belt, I'm not sure which Superman I took it from, but I had a spotter box. The cape also came from that same Superman, and then the only other thing that I really did here is the bracers. They are made with green stuff. Green
green
stuff,
stuff.
yeah. Green stuff is it's an epoxy modeling clay that when you put it on, it's very flexible. So that when you have to do stuff like heat it up and then pop a hand in, it doesn't crack like Milliput does.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you've got specialist stuff there to work on these.
Yep. And then of course he's standing on, like all the other ones, a superpower stand.
Very nice.
Okay, so that's
a really cool figure. It's a shame that it's from maybe the worst issue of the tie-in comics, but I mean, it's a shame it's the worst issue because I mean, what a cover! Just like so many different versions of Superboy.
Yep. And yeah, we've said this before, when we talk about the tie-in. Kevin McGuire he's an unsung hero in, when it comes to dealing with Superman and Superboy. Because I mean, his covers just bring such life to the issue.
I mean, the issue right before it, probably my favorite cover in the whole run.
And that's the only appearance of Metallo in the tie-in comic.
Yeah, but I mean, look, Superboy's skin is turning green in his face, which is good. Nice attention to detail, but just the pose.
Yep.
It's so much action going on. You've got the plane going behind. You've got the smoke trail behind the plane and all of that. I assume that's like, the crop field, like the fields of Smallville or something, just to save time drawing in a city or something.
Yeah.
I guess. But, that's just a really cool cover. I really like it. And I assume that was one of Maguire's covers.
Yeah, I think there's only two covers that he didn't do for the entire series, and that's issue number 1, which was the photo cover.
Yeah.
And issue 13 is the one that the interior artwork was done by Paris Cullins, another unsung hero in comic books. He did the Blue Devil series for DC, and then after that he did Blue Beetle for DC. Again, just a phenomenal artist. But
so did he do the inside artwork and the cover for that one?
Yep.
That's cool. That's cool that I got him to do both.
And that, of course, is our Mixes Pitlick episode. So
we'll look forward to when we actually get there for our reviews that we do. We're still quite some time away. It'll probably take us a couple of years to actually even get there. But if you'll stick with us, Superboy Legacy viewers, we'll keep making our reviews because we love doing them.
Now the next one, this is also from the cover of the special, and this is from like
which one is he this time?
You've actually got your middle finger on him right now.
This side or this side?
Left-hand side middle finger.
Okay. Oh yes, you can see the
sort of half symbol right there.
But yeah. It's a cool looking costume. I like how it almost looks like he's wearing like a sash or something. It almost gives it a slightly Kryptonian sort of regality to it.
Yeah, this was a design that I absolutely loved back then when it was done. And I'm gonna be completely honest here. When I was in college, I was, because there was no Superboy at that time, I was just coming up with, my own, fan fiction stuff. And I used this as one of the designs for one of the alternate Superboys.
Sweet.
But this one is made from a DC Multiverse Superman figure. It was the Super Friends Superman. which had a
Right.
cloth cape, so I could remove that. All I really did with this was remove the symbol from the chest. I repainted the neck a little bit. Now, all the next few Superboys you're going to see here, they all use the same head, and that's the new 52 Superman head from DC Universe Classics. And I use that mostly because that looks the most like Gerard that you're ever going to find, because it's young.
It looks like sort of if Gerard and Reeve sort of combined, I would say.
Yep.
But he looks young, which is the main thing you sort of need.
Yep.
It's a good choice for the head, definitely.
Yeah, with all of these new 52 heads, the skin tone was off. So I mixed up a special batch of my own flesh tone. And of course, repainted the hands, repainted the neck, and repainted the face. And a lot of them I got, as just, as part of broken new 52 figures or slightly worn. So I had to do a lot of repaint on the hair.
I imagine after repainting the flesh tones for the face, you'd probably want to repaint the hair anyway, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I just imagine, very fiddly. It's probably going to be a few spots of flesh tone that went onto the hair. So
yeah, and the only part of the head that I actually didn't paint is the eyes. I painted around them.
That would have been extremely difficult to repaint the eyes. Certainly, I can see why you worked around them.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's just a really cool design. It's a shame that Superboy never got actual tie-in merchandise beyond the comics themselves, because I would love to have figures from some of this.
I think, and this is something that Sam showed me once, long time ago.
Mm.
There were two statues, put together statues, and it was Gerard as Superboy and Bizarro.
I didn't know that.
And I think you could only
I've
get them
never even seen one of those.
Yeah, I think what he was telling me is I think you could only get them at the Superman Museum.
Right.
And they were like limited run on them.
If anybody watching on YouTube happens to have one of these, please reach out to us, superboylegacy@hotmail.com. Send us some photos if you have them. Just because I've never seen one of these, and I'd love to see what they actually look like. So if anybody out there can confirm that, these still exist somewhere, and if you have one, please reach out, because we genuinely would love to see how they turned out. I'd like to just see how good the quality was on them. I think it would have been a shame if, they made them and it was the only things they made and they were just a bit naff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you have one of these, please send us a photo or something. That'd be really nice.
Yep. Gotta say, the hardest part on this figure was the red stripe.
I imagine, yeah. I mean, that's where all the that's the big sort of focus of the figure, isn't it? If that bit's wrong, it's the first thing you'd notice.
Yeah,
but you've got all the detail in the actual yellow part of the S. The detail in that looks really good.
Again, that's one of my homemade symbols. So,
yeah,
thankfully,
you've put the work in to make sure that it's accurate to the symbols that are in this. Like the first figure you showed, the ones with no sleeves. The figure is exact to what it is in the comic, and I appreciate the level of detail,
because neither of these two actually appeared as one of the alternate Superboys in the
issue itself.
Yep.
Yeah. So you've had to work from the cover, and you've still put the work into making sure the details are correct. Yeah. I think everyone at home can appreciate going to that level of work.
Yeah. The other thing is I had to repaint the belt loops, and what I used for the belt loops and of course the red of the chest was Testors Model Masters Guards Red, which I then covered with 2 coats of flat clear to kind of even it out.
Yeah.
I also had to flat clear the blue sections of the chest, kind of to clean it up.
Yeah.
Because
if you've only got, like you said, there was a hole in the chest. Like,
well, not in this one. That was in the other one.
Right. And you said you used, what was it, putty or some sort of modeling clay to.
Yeah.
to do that, like you would have to put some of the coats of clear over it, just so the whole thing is the same level of shine, I suppose, because you wouldn't want just the chest piece looking noticeably more dull than the rest of it.
The thing with this figure and then the other Superboy figures that I've done in this box here, they had the painted on symbol, factory painted on symbol. The only way to get that off is to use brush and roller cleaner. And when I did that, first off, it took away any of the non-gloss of the chest. So it was bright. It was shining like regular plastic. So I had to give it a couple of coats of flat clear just to take that away. And then, of course, I had to do the red stripe, and the red stripe was a bitch to do. Excuse my language.
I imagine it was. I mean, you've got it looking very straight, which is I imagine that was tricky in itself, painting that to keep it straight. Just because it's bumpy, like the tones of his musculature on his chest. Keeping that straight must have been a pain in the ass.
It was, but the easiest part about it was doing the center where the left-hand side of the stripe, because
it's the side under the armpit almost that I imagine that's the difficult bit.
Yeah,
but that's where a lot of the more rough areas are.
Yeah, but I eventually got it done, and then I had to measure. Great. I had to measure it, just to see how big it was for the pectoral muscle, so that when I made the symbol, I could shrink it down to exactly that size.
Yeah.
And of course, this symbol is just a guess because you don't really see much of what's there.
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar. Did you use the same symbol for that as you used for the LOS on the previous figures, Kate?
Nope.
No, okay. Because they are very similar, so you probably could have got away with using the same symbol twice.
But, yeah, it's just, I wanted it to be as close to what is visibly there as possible.
Yeah. I think everyone at home can appreciate going to that.
Yep. And then the other little thing is the buckle.
I noticed it was slightly darker.
Yeah, every single one of the this version of the DC Universe Classics figure that I used, the Superpowers Superman that they did, it had an actual golden buckle. So for a little bit of symmetry, I made certain that every single one had a golden buckle.
That's cool.
Now, granted, this one and the other one are darker than the actual ones, but little differences are okay.
Yeah, that looks great.
Yeah,
and he's just a really cool, unique design for a Superman costume. I can't remember any other versions that really look like that. It does remind me slightly. It looks more Kryptonian than some of the other Superman suits, especially like some of the late 90s to I think it's like mid 2000s, around the Birthright era. Some like the Kryptonian costumes for a while, they had that sash going down with the symbol on it. At least I think it was the Birthright era.
That was up to Birthright. That was the Byrne era.
Right, but it was the later end of the Byrne era is what I'm sort of picturing.
Yep, that's when he was
also the new 52 version of the Kryptonian outfit. I think had the sash as a reference to the Byrne thing. I could be wrong.
Yeah,
but that's sort of what it's reminded me of, and I like that. I think it's a really cool little. It's the continuity feels right. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Now this one is less of one that appeared in the book, and more of a conjectural one that we will eventually be getting to in seasons 5 and 6 of our podcast.
Oh yeah, Ultraman.
Yep.
Yeah, and it looks like a classic, influence of Ultraman, which I like.
Yep.
Especially as you've got the long bit across there.
Well,
which reminds me very much of some of the older.
A little bit on.
Right.
DC Universe Classics actually did a Ultraman and Alexander Luthor box set. I got a bunch of the Ultraman figures. Again, used the new 52 head because we wanted the little bit of a longer hair.
The hair is very much like Gerard's season 3 and 4.
Yep.
Superboy hair. It's not so much as a curl as it's like a quiff almost.
Yep.
A half over the fringe, half not.
Yep.
But yeah, that's a really cool costume. Really cool figure there.
Yeah. The lower.
So what was actually changed from the McFarlane ones that you said?
Yeah, well, this is DC Universe Classics that I used.
Sorry, yeah, got confused.
So the parts that I used on this were the lower legs down to the feet, okay, and the forearms with the hands. The lower legs down to the foot peg is using a DC Universe Classics Crime Syndicate box set Johnny Quick, mostly because the existing Ultraman figure he had painted on boots.
Okay, and you wanted them to look like they actually had substance to them.
And yep, and the same thing with his bracers; they were painted on. So for the bracers, I just got a DC Universe Classics Golden Age Atom because he had these brown, strapped bracers. All I did was sand off the straps, and I used the same hands. Just repainted the head.
Move it over a bit. There we are. Yeah, looks great, and good, and good decision with the boots because they do just look better when they're not painted on. They always look better when they're actually sculpted in some way, even if it's very subtle.
Yep,
it makes so much difference.
And this was actually like the second Ultra. Well, in this case, it's an Ultra Boy, but this is the second Ultraman that I've done using this recipe. The other one I did was a Golden Age style, and I used the Earth 2 Superman head for it.
That's cool. You'll have to show, if you don't have that one in the box next to you at the moment, that will be one you have to show when we do a second one of these.
Definitely will.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Ultraman never had a symbol on his cape, so I left that exactly as it was.
Yeah, I'm quite right too.
So now we're going to start getting into the ones that were actually in the special. So you're going to have to turn to the big splash page to find them. So we're going to start with this one, and this has sort of a arrowhead without the point at the bottom.
That one there?
Yep.
Okay. You can see it on mine. There we are. Bit blurry, but there you go.
Yep.
And yeah, you've got the exact same symbol. The symbol is literally identical. Like, I wouldn't even be surprised if you were to tell me that you actually just, scanned this cover and cut out a sticker of the exact symbol.
Well, I didn't.
So you redrew it yourself.
I tried doing it, but the way Kurt Swan drew it in the issue, it was not exactly 100%, even. So I had to find an arrowhead, square bottom symbol on Google that I could adapt, and then I just drew it by eye to try and match it up, and there were a lot of eraser marks as I was doing it.
I bet there were, but you got there in the end. And show it off again, just so everyone at home can see. And I realised the page is quite blurry on my screen, but you can see the detail is correct, and yeah, it looks great.
Yep.
And again, you've got the yellow. You've got the actual golden buckle on the belt there as well. I see.
Well,
so.
that one is all. The only work that I did on this was just change the head, and put and remove the existing symbol, and then glue the new ones on. Let's move on to our next one. This is also from that page, and this is more in the middle of the image.
Yep, that one there.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, you can see it's a very classic symbol, but there's no little triangle above the S in the corner.
Yes, there. And the other thing is the little downward notch of the top part of the S. It comes a lot closer and more angled to the
I see.
Yep.
Very nice.
And did the same
His
thing with
hair is quite a strange hairstyle in the comic there.
yeah, that's the one thing that
I can't, I can't imagine. I can't see how you could have adapted that if you tried. He looks sort of like Elvis Presley. You'd have to find like an Elvis action figure and steal the head from that.
I was not going to do that.
No, I don't even know if they make Elvis action figures.
Oh, they do. They do.
Oh.
The only thing is, I was not going to try and do Elvis on Superman, mostly because Elvis was a Captain Marvel Jr. fan.
Fair enough.
Okay, so let's go to our next one.
I'm guessing I'm guessing the white-haired Superman is the Ron Eli Superman in this. It's been a while since I've read this.
Well, yeah, he is right there on the other page. Yeah, that's the Ron Eli.
It's cool that he's in the suit again. Yeah. Is it that one there?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I'm trying to work it out because the one over on that side also has quite a similar symbol.
I made that one too.
More rounded, so yeah, that's the angular version.
Yep.
I still want to know what's up with Grey Spock Superman, but there you go.
I think that was just the ones in the front are more shadowed, and that's the way they colored them. So
he just looks grey and he looks like a Vulcan.
But this one I loved this symbol, back then. This was the one that I loved the most. And he was the one that I fleshed out the most when I was doing my fan fiction back then. I had completely...
I mean, it's a cool looking symbol. It's classic enough that you recognize what it is, but it's also different enough that it's you can easily say it's not just a mistake in the drawing. It's a purposeful design choice. And I respect it.
Yep. And again, this one, I didn't really do all that much work to it. It's just,
swapping out the symbol and the head.
Yeah.
Very nice. And you got the LOS on the cape again. I appreciate that.
Okay. So this is going to be the last of our actually appears in the issue figures. And it's the one you were just pointing out.
Yeah. The other slightly rounded S over there.
Yep. And this, again, drawn completely by hand.
Yeah, you can tell that this one is a hand-drawn version because it is very slightly different, but that's purely because the angle is, the angle I'm looking at it.
Yep.
That's awesome. I actually really like that design for the S a lot. It's a really cool looking version.
Yep.
Nothing for me will ever beat the classic. Gerard's S in Superboy for me is a perfect adaptation of the comic book S. But I do like that a lot.
Now, for this next one, we're going to be going away from Superman figures, although it is somebody who appeared in the actual show.
It's a bit blurry, so I can't really tell who that one's supposed to be.
It's Brimstone.
Oh, it's Brimstone. Okay. So, I mean, you've got the costume in that all right. So, yeah, I like it.
Yeah, what I did for this one is I got an extra DC Universe Classics modern Jack Knight Starman. And I swapped out the arms. And I took the head off I'm trying to make a black guy. I don't need another white guy. And I took a DC Universe Classics unmasked bronze tiger head because I tried looking for a head that was made to look like Philip Michael Thomas, but the only place that I found it, they wanted to charge $400 for it.
Well, fuck that.
Yeah.
Just for the head.
Yeah.
Fuck that. That's outrageous.
And this one was a complete repaint of the Jack Knight. The only thing that I did really is he had a little button on the lapel here, I sanded that off.
Yeah, because it doesn't match.
Yep.
You know,
And of course, I
costume.
created the fact that he has a sort of high collar, a dicky collar with milliput, and everything was just repainted. I
Great.
used gloss, gloss clear on the jacket because it was already black. Same thing with the arms, and then gloss clear on the legs and feet after I gave them a paint in black.
Well, it looks great.
The
I
shirt,
like how, I really like how glossy it looks because it's catching the light really, really nicely on camera.
yep, and it had to look like
it's still a
leather.
bit pixelated, but I think people at home can appreciate how good it looks in the lighting.
Yeah, it had to look like leather, so had to do it right.
It looks perfect.
Now this one it uses a Superman body, but it is not one of the Superboys from the show.
Well, he is one of the Superboys from the show. He's the new Superboy when R1 is revealed as a robot.
Yep.
I love it. Really cool Lex Luger Superboy costume.
Yep. This uses a DC Direct Superman figure, mostly because I needed something that was a bit more massive and muscular.
When you're making a figure of Lex Luger, you can't have him be skinny. Lex Luger was huge. You can see in that episode, in Mindscape, you can see just how stretched out Gerard's costume was on him.
Yep. This is actually using a Lex Luger head.
But you can tell that was an official Luger head because it looks just like him. It is.
It was a Mattel head
is
too.
Exact. What was that?
It was a Mattel head too.
Oh, cool. Well, it looks fantastic.
Yeah, the only thing that I did on
looks
this,
exactly like him in the episode.
Yeah, the only thing I did was really I repainted the exposed areas of the skin, his hands and his neck, just to match the Luger head, because he does have a little bit of a tan to him. But everything else is still 100% original.
That is awesome.
At some point, I probably should repaint the buckle, but then it wouldn't be accurate to the show.
Yeah, leave the buckle as it is. Keep it as the show was for these ones. For the comic, you can get away with making changes like that, but when it's based on the actual show itself.
Yep. But, now we're going to go back into Superboy characters.
Right. Well, we never really left, but go on.
Well, I meant Superboys themselves.
Okay.
Or ones that wear the actual costume. Although not so much in the case of this one. And as soon as I show it, you're going to know exactly.
I already know who it is. It's Superboy Dark, yeah.
Only thing missing is the sunglasses. Because I couldn't find a pair that matched. This again is using a Jack Ryder, Jack Knight Superboy Starman figure. To make it a little bit different, I used the jacket from a DC Universe Classics Animal Man.
It works,
Yep.
For some reason, my memory of Superboy Dark, he always has a slightly longer coat, but I was watching it just the other day and it is a lot shorter than I remember. The reason is because obviously earlier in that same episode, Superboy from the main universe is walking around in a trench coat. So somewhere along the way, I combined the coats for some reason. But looking at that figure now, that is exact. Like that's so cool.
Yeah, and the fact that the new 52 head is so serious, it kind of gives, once you put it onto this body, it makes him look like he's angry.
Which is perfect for that version of the character.
Yep.
That is awesome.
Now, this next cool one you've seen before. You saw it when we had Douglas on the show.
Right, okay.
So you know exactly what it is before I pull it out.
Oh, yeah.
And now you get to see my hand-done Gerard symbols.
Yeah, it's pretty much exact. It looks just like Gerard's symbol.
Yep.
And yeah, even the Bizarro, like the hair is perfect. His chin jots out a little bit more, but I'm guessing that's just because the head that you used for it has a slightly pointier chin.
Yep.
But
The
you know,
head that I used was a DC Collectibles. This is what DC Direct became. New 52 Bizarro head.
okay. New
And what I
52 Bizarro didn't look anything like Douglas's one as well. So obviously you've customized the hell out of it.
oh yeah, I mean the face is exactly the same as it originally was, except I painted it. You know, because
Yeah.
the original head had this gray pallor to it, and if we're doing Douglas, we have to be all white.
And it looks like you really changed the hair a lot, because I'm looking at, I've just pulled up on screen on a second window the new 52 Bizarro toys, and yeah, I'm guessing you resculpted that hair significantly, because
Well, not so much resculpted it as used the hair from another figure.
that's probably easier.
Do you remember in the early 2000s when Mattel relaunched He-Man?
No, I
Okay,
was never a huge He-Man fan, so I wouldn't have been paying
that's
attention
right.
to
I
it.
forget you're not really into sword and sorcery stuff.
No, I'm not a fantasy guy. You know, Harry Potter's probably the extent that I enjoy that sort
Yep.
of wizardry stuff.
But
And even
what I
that,
did
not so
was
much anymore.
I found a broken 2000 and I think it was 2002 He-Man head
That's
where the
cool.
hair looked perfect, and I just took the head out because the hair was detachable, and then I just hollowed it out a little bit inside, and then sanded the head a little bit so I could fit it on, and then glued it together. And the only thing is, I had to add some milliput around the sides here.
Just so there's not
And
gaps, I suppose.
yeah, because when I did it, I had to sand off his ears.
Right.
And yeah, once the ears are gone and you've got the cutaway for ears, it doesn't look right.
No. But no, it's turned out really well. I was gonna say, like, when it comes to Bizarro's hair, the first thing I would have tried to do is see if they made action figures of the Beatles, because I know that they used a Beatles wig for his
Yeah,
hair in the show. But then even then that wouldn't have worked so well, because they purposely messed it up a lot as well. So it's not just the Beatles hairstyle; it's a
yeah.
roughed up,
It's
messy
not like
Beatles
I
hairstyle.
could take a
A
Mr.
Paul
Chekhov.
McCartney figure or something. Yeah. Oh yeah, Chekhov, like perfect. He had a Beatles haircut.
Yep,
But you would have been needed to be able to sort of spike it a little bit, like style it, mess it up. Because
yep.
let's face it, Bizarro's hair was never neat. Although it is still strange watching Bride of Bizarro. Just like, have you watched that episode recently? Because Gerard's hair is crazy in it.
Yeah.
Like, it looks super greasy, and it's just like curly, and it's like long. And yeah, watch Bride of Bizarro again, because I don't think his hair was quite like that in any other episode. It looks really strange. When we do a commentary on that, I'll be sure to point that out.
Yep. All right. So
On to the
this
next one.
this is going to take you back to Brimstone.
Okay. Oh, that's cool.
And
Oh, I kind of love that. That's really cool.
yeah, the way I did this one is I took the head from a DC Universe Classics Negative Man because his head was already swathed in bandages.
And then what? You just put the hair from another figure on top.
I had a broken DC Universe Classics Connor Kent figure, and I cut the forehead off. You know, right where his bowl cut ends. I cut the head, you know, from that down off and got rid of it. Then I hollowed it out inside. And then the Negative Man, I took this because each strip of the bandage, you know, was molded. So I took the dome from one of those off. You know, I kind of, well, not off so much as sanded around it to create a peg.
Right.
And then I glued the two pieces together. I had to add a little bit of milliput here and there to kind of fill out some things. But it gave us Gerard, possessed by the demon and controlled by Proto in the episode.
Brimstone's an episode we've got to do a commentary on. Maybe next week we can do that one, because it's been a very long time since I've seen that episode.
Yep.
Yeah, so watch out. Next week's episode will probably be a commentary on Brimstone. Just a little sneak preview for all our viewers. This is how we decide. We just, at some point, we're like, you know what? I feel like watching that one next.
Yep.
That's literally, that's why we don't go in any sort of, logical order with our commentaries.
Yep. And then, of course, this is the one that you've been waiting for. So, drum roll, please. Gerard as Superboy.
Looks great. And it is, using the new 52 hair was just a perfect choice, because that is exactly what Gerard's hair was like in seasons 3 and 4.
Plus the fact,
apart from Bride of Bizarro, which, as I say, he's just got really bizarre hair in that episode. They were still working things out, I'm guessing.
Yeah, but I mean, it was the best head to use, because every other head that I've found that looked like Superman or Superboy is either too young, or it's Superman, 30, 33 years old, and it's got too many lines on it. The new 52, because he was supposed to be like 20, 25-ish.
Yeah, he was much younger for that.
Yep, it worked the best.
Well, if you ever want to make a John Newton figure, I've always thought that this Superman animated series figure looks vaguely like John in the head. You just need to get rid of sand down the neck, so the neck's not so absurd.
Yeah,
but it's hard to tell because it's so blurry. But I've always thought this one looks like John, and it's one of those ones that turns into Clark, so you can push the head down.
Oh yeah, I have that one.
Yeah, and I even think when he's dressed as Clark with this particular figure, I even think he's dressed like John Newton's Clark Kent, because he's got like a braces. Like, I don't think it's braces actually. I'll have to check, but it looks vaguely Newton-esque.
Yeah,
but, if you've got one of these, or if you can get some spares.
Well, the problem with those is they're too small.
That's true.
And the fact that
that is a very tiny head.
Yeah.
Even compared to its own neck. Like, I mean, what were they thinking, making a neck like the neck is wider than his head?
Yeah, they were thinking, let's design the internal device so that we could push it in.
Yeah, but you don't need it to be that thin. You can still have it a little bit wider, because when that goes in, there's lots of space. Like I can like wobble it back and forth. There's tons of space in there. But
yeah,
there you go. The symbol is also perfect for John. It's exactly what his suit was.
I mean, I still have a few of these Superman bodies that I could use, and I probably will eventually, figure out how to do John. But it's going to be a while.
Yeah, and it might turn out that at some point in the next couple of years they'll release another Superman figure. And you might be like, actually, that one looks a lot like John. And suddenly it will be like, you've got exactly what you needed in that moment.
Yeah. I mean,
who knows? Whoever they cast for, James Gunn's Superman Legacy film might turn out they look a little bit like John. And then when they make official merchandise for that version of the movie, you'll have a ton of heads that you can pull off and use.
Yeah. Or McFarlane might actually do what I kind of suggested he should do in his most recent post. He put a post up on both Instagram and Facebook, and he was showing off the new Flash figures that they're doing for, the Flash movie, and of course you have the Keaton Batman, and I kind of went off a little bit, not too proud of that, and I pretty much said, you keep putting out tons and tons of Batmen, more Batmen that we can shake a stick at. Where's the love for Superman? Where's the Christopher Reeve? Where's the Dean Cain? Where's John Newton? Where's Gerard Christopher?
Yeah. I've said it before. I would kill for a Gerard Christopher action figure. I know some people are doing custom ones. Like obviously, you've made a ton of custom ones that we've just been looking at. But obviously, there's people that have shared their stuff in our Facebook group that do like the Hot Toys versions and like the 3D printed statues of Gerard Superboy and stuff, and they're fantastic. I just can't afford one. That's all it comes down to. I would buy one instantly if I actually had the money for it.
Yeah.
But it's a shame that it's just down to the fans to do this stuff. Like I think even if they did like a limited run, you could say like only 100 of these figures are ever going to be made. And it's like, we'll do 100 Gerard Christophers, 100 Dean Canes, they'd sell so quickly, and they could probably afford to, they'd probably put the prices up a little bit higher than the average figure just because they're not made in bulk.
Yeah.
But there would be people that would buy it. I know you certainly would. If they made a Gerard Christopher or John Newton figure tomorrow, you'd be buying it immediately.
Well, I'd see if anybody was selling the head separately. And first, I'd also see if it was in scale with these so that I could fix them.
Yeah.
But,
if someone out there has a 3D printer and you want an idea for a home business you can do, custom action figure heads. There you go. You'll have your first customer right there.
if they do John Newton or Sherman Howard.
Yeah. I would love to see like a Bizarro or Mixtures Pitlick figure based on the show as well. Hell, I would love a Dennis Jackson figure, or a Matt Ritter, or I would love a Stacey Hyduke, Lana Lang figure.
Well,
one that actually looks like she did in like season 3 or 4 when she had like the shorter sort of hair. That's my favorite.
Do know that I did one of Stacey, right?
I do, but I want an official one as well.
Well,
it shouldn't just be on you. You shouldn't, it shouldn't be down to you to make this stuff. The only problem with the
Stacey figure that I did was she's smaller than these, so she's not in scale with them.
Yeah, I remember you had to use a Sequest figure for a head, didn't you?
Yep.
Because it's the only figure of a Stacey Hyduke character that there is.
Yeah, it was a Stacey head, which I had to sand off her hair, and then I took a Buffy Willow figure.
Hair. Yeah, that was the hair I remember you saying.
Took the hair from the Willow, and I took the head of Willow out, milliputted her head into it, had to give the head a coating of, well, actually 3 coats of flat clear because she was so glossy. And then the hair, I started off with orange, then I put red, and then I kind of put flat clear, and it finally looked like Stacey's hair. And it was Stacey as she looked in the episode The Basement.
Cool. Yeah.
And I shared it with her on the day that I put it out. She never responded.
Take another photo of it. I will share it from the Superboy Legacy Instagram and tag her in it, and maybe you'll actually get, she'll probably like the picture. She usually does whenever we post something on Instagram.
Yeah.
So yeah, take a picture of that, and I'll upload it from our account, and hopefully she'll see it this time.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I keep saying, it shouldn't just be on you to be making these figures. It's a shame that there's not more official merchandise.
You want to hear something interesting? When I made that Stacey figure, I made my first, Superboy figure from the show. And it was designed to look exactly like Gerard. So, of course, I'm using the DC Direct Earth Prime Superboy body because it's in scale with the Buffy figure that I used. And the head I used was Tom Welling as Clark Kent.
Okay. I imagine you would have had to change the hair a fair bit.
Well, it was the first Tom Welling figure that they did, which was smaller.
Right. Yeah, he had slightly shorter hair as well at the beginning. His hair got very long around, like, was it season 4 or 5? There was like one season where his hair was like almost touching his shoulders.
Yep.
most of the time.
This kind of looked like Gerard's, cap.
Yeah, that's cool.
The only thing that I did was I added the spit curl.
Cool.
And then when I repainted the head, same kind of thing that I did with this one. I repainted the head, except for the eyes. Repainted the eyebrows, repainted the hair, repainted the new spit curl, put the flat clear on it. I started to realize, Gerard and Tom look an awful lot alike.
I also think Tom Welling and Newton looked very similar. I think there's an episode. What's the episode where, in order to hide his identity or something, he has to jump into a swimming pool and then he comes out of the water and he's not got his glasses on. They're like laughing and
that was Back to Oblivion.
Right. And yeah, like there's one particular shot in that episode when Newton comes out of the water in the pool. He looks so much like Welling, it's scary.
Yeah. And Welling was.
But then I guess it's going to happen. They cast each of these actors because they look like Superman, so of course they're going to look similar. The only one they don't look similar to is probably Tyler Hoechlin, just because he's got such a unique look as Superman. But even Tyler Hoechlin looks an awful lot like Kirk Allen. Or Allen. I don't know how you pronounce it. I always say Allen. I don't know. If it's right.
That's the way we do it here in the US. So
that's fine then. But yeah, that's actually kind of funny to think about, really. Tyler Hoechlin and Kirk Allen have a very similar face when you look at them.
The only one out of all the actors who've played him that does not, quote unquote, look like, the same or similar actor. Well,
George Reeves.
Yeah, George. George is the only one who has a different facial structure, for different hairstyle,
Yeah.
And yet they've technically kind of made a George figure.
I didn't know they'd made one.
There was a run of Justice League figures that they did. I think they did Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and there was one other character in the line. It was DC Direct that did it, and the head, when you look at it, it's George's head.
That's
all
cool.
you need to do is just modify the colors a little bit, put a smaller symbol on it. You've got a George figure.
That's cool. I'm just Googling looking for it, but I can't find it now, so I'm going to stop looking. But I mean, it's funny because George Reeves definitely looks a lot like the sort of Golden Age, early Silver Age, Kurt Swan version of the character.
Well, there's a reason behind why he looks so much like Kurt Swan's Superman. When Kurt was drawing Superman, he was always doing a variation on George's face.
Well, yeah. I mean, he was the most popular version of the character up to that point, probably, purely because that TV show was so popular at the time. I mean, 6 seasons, it would have to be popular.
Yeah.
Everybody pretty much was watching it at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that sentence didn't really go anywhere, but I think people get where I was going with it.
Yeah. The interesting part is that when John Byrne took over from Kurt, when they decided to do the handoff, John sat down and he's talked about this in interviews. He says, I sat down and I was looking at the face that Kurt was drawing, and I couldn't draw that. There's no way in hell I could draw that. So when he started designing his Superman, he used Chris Reeve as his basis.
It is funny though, because there are some early comics that came out before Christopher Reeve was cast. Like, I've got some stories from like the 60s and stuff, and I swear there are panels where he looks so much like Reeve, it's not even funny. Like it looks like they based it on Christopher Reeve 10 years before he was cast.
Yeah.
So it's just, some panels he looks like George Reeve, some panels he looks like Christopher Reeve. It fits. It feels like a progression. And I guess it just goes to show just how perfectly cast both actors really were in the roles that they were able to, especially Christopher Reeve, because, you know, if there are issues from the comics that come out and you'd look at the artwork and you'd swear they based it on Reeve, but he wasn't even in the conversation yet, you're just like, wow, okay.
Yeah. And then, of course, we know about, you know, when Gary Frank took over as the artist on Action. You know,
well, yeah, I mean, he just draws Reeve as Superman most of the time. You know, I think he did some work in the New 52 where he didn't draw him as Reeve, but then, like, since then, he's gone back to drawing Reeve when he's done the occasional cover or something. He's always doing like variant covers for things and stuff like that, I think. And
the couple of times that I remember him drawing a variant cover during the New 52, he was doing Reeve's head in the New 52 suit, and it looked really. It was great art, but it looked jarring.
Yeah, I imagine it would feel just really, really wrong.
Yeah, because I know that Reeve would look at that suit and be like, "What the hell do you want me to wear?"
Yeah, I still don't like the New 52 suit. I'll be honest. I think it's so ugly. Well, I don't think I've ever hated a Superman suit more than that one. And the fact that there's still people that are saying, "Oh, I hope the next movie based the suit on the New 52." I was like, "Please don't." High collar, you know, I don't want the Square Enix version of Superman on screen. Thank you.
Yeah. They've already done a costume that is very, very similar to the New 52, and that was Tyler Hoechlin's first suit on Superman.
And it didn't. Okay, a movie would have a higher budget, so the suit would look better. I understand that, but I don't like the high collar, and I certainly don't like how armored it is, because the fact is, Clark Kent's supposed to be wearing this under his clothes at the Daily Planet at all times. I know they had the suit almost like materialize as he ripped open his shirt in that, so it wasn't actually always under it. But I was just, why the? It's just a stupid change, in my opinion. Just
and the way
what's the point?
Yeah.
So why would Superman need armor?
Yeah,
he's Superman.
That's the point that I made to a guy that I met at my local comic book shop, a guy by the name of Howard Margolin. You know, he and I used to get into.
Yeah, if Superman needed an armored suit for a specific situation, that's something else. You know, if he needed to go to a planet that's got a red sun and he knows his powers are going to run out at some point, so he's having to wear an armored suit. Maybe it's maybe it's got it's got like charged up battery packs that are full of yellow sun energy, just so he can keep his powers and it stops him being, there are plenty of ways you can explain away the New 52 suit, but having it as his everyday regular suit just sucks. And don't even get me started on the whole jeans, t-shirt, and a cape. Like, that's Connor Kent's Superboy costume. There shouldn't be
and it was
Superman.
It was an ugly set of jeans because it had a patch on the knee that was sewed in.
Yeah, and it's
like,
I'm sorry, but Ma Kent would not let him out the house looking like that.
Yeah. Well, they explained that away. Oh, Ma's dead.
Oh yeah, of course it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, they killed off both parents quite early, I think, in the New 52. The only thing I will say about the New 52 that I really, really liked was the fact that in his Fortress of Solitude, he had the big crystal statues of both sets of parents instead of just his Kryptonian ones. And I thought, it's about fucking time that they did something like that. Like, that was a really cool idea. It's pretty much the only thing from New 52 that I actually like, really.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I liked Superman Unchained. I think Scott Snyder wrote it. I've actually got it as a hardback.
And Lee drew it. 7 issues.
It's probably the best New 52 Superman story in my opinion. But even so, it's not one that I would call one of my favorites. It's just I happen to have an ex-library book version of it.
It's kind of a meh to me. I mean, the New 52
making Superman angry and slightly Superman became quite angry. He didn't think things through very much, and
which is fine if you're doing him year one, okay?
yeah, but
But
like which would have been fine because they started the New 52, and some of like it was either Action or Superman was set at the beginning of his career, and
Action,
then the other one, yeah, and then Superman was set 5 years in.
yeah,
So maybe make him angry for Action, but you could make it so he settled into his role as Superman for the other. You know, that would
yeah.
work, but
The,
they didn't do that.
yeah, the problem with the New 52 is, and Neil Gaiman pointed this out very, very succinctly. He said, "You're trying to make Superman relatable. That's not how you do Superman.
No,
You
you
make
make him
him
something to
inspiring."
aspire to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can put him in a realistic world where there's realistic problems, but the the way to see Clark Kent is he has all these problems and he still manages to do this. He smiles, and that's what Superman is supposed to do. He's supposed to make you feel like, yeah, I've got 5 kids, I've got bills to pay, my car just broke down, but I can get through it. It's like that one scene from All Star, when he flies down and he hugs the girl who's trying to commit suicide to try and make things better. That's Superman.
Yeah. Absolutely.
To put all this darkness into his world,
it just misses the point. It just misses the point.
Yeah, I mean,
Superman is the thing to aspire to be. It's like I saw a video essay on YouTube a few years ago, and it was about making movies where the protagonist character doesn't have a character arc, but instead every other character in the movie has a character arc because of their overwhelming positivity or optimism, hope, whatever it may be. And the example they used is, there were multiple examples. One of them was Back to the Future. Right. You think Marty doesn't really have a character arc in the first Back to the Future, but everyone around him, everyone he interacts with, most certainly does as a result of meeting Marty McFly. So that's one example. The other example they used was the 2 Paddington movies. Okay. And, I don't know if you've seen them, but Paddington 2 is legitimately a masterpiece. And someone was saying that the whole idea of Paddington, who's this little bear who shows up in quite a realistic world at first, although with, heightened stuff in it, and he slowly turns the neighborhood from grey and miserable to colourful and happy because he's so positive. He makes everyone around him better. And that is how to write Superman. He doesn't need to have a character arc. Like all this stuff with the Snyderverse and stuff like that, with all of this stuff. Superman can't start out as Superman, or he's got nowhere to go. It's like he doesn't need to. All Superman needs to do is inspire change in those around him. He doesn't need to have any change in himself because he's already Superman.
Yeah.
And New 52 missed the point with that. And I really hope that James Gunn understands that aspect of the character, because he can have a character arc, but I think the most important thing is that he's inspiring all the other characters around him, because that's what makes characters like Jimmy Olsen important to the mythos. It's like that's why Jimmy is important. It's why Lois is important, and Lana and Perry White. Nobody would give a shit about them if Superman wasn't sort of inspiring them to do, the great metropolitan newspaper goes from, probably struggling for sales to suddenly business is booming because they've got Superman on the cover so regularly. But it also, it takes the cold and cynical Lois Lane and makes her open her heart to a different way of looking at the world. And it's like just little things here and there. Superman just inspires just a little bit along the way. And I think that's an important aspect to the character, and it's something the New 52 was just lacking, in my opinion. But then Lois and Clark happened as the miniseries, and obviously the Rebirth era happened, and that is my favorite Superman modern Superman run. I think the Rebirth era is a masterpiece. Peter J. Tomasi, as far as I'm concerned, he should be writing all the animated Superman movies and live action movies as well.
He should still be writing the Superman books.
Yeah, well, he only stopped doing it because Bendis came on, and I'm not one of those people that hates Bendis's changes and run and all of that. I think it's got good moments here and there, but overall, it's just not as good as what came. Like, it's just not as good as what we had before he arrived. So what was the point?
I mean, there are certain things that he did really well. I mean, the character of Rogol Zar was an interesting new character.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when he destroyed the bottled city of Kandor, that was a big moment. I was like, holy fuck. Yeah. I can't believe they just did that. Like,
thankfully that's been undone because Kandor's back.
I figured it probably would. I figured maybe Clark had like a decoy Kandor or something. Like, because I don't know. I would personally, I wouldn't just have it on display somewhere. I would have it in the safest place possible, which I guess is the whole point of the fortress in general. But clearly, Rogol Zar found his way down there.
But what he did to Jonathan Kent, the younger Jonathan, that is, I mean, that was just awful. That's not how, he made it out. Oh, well, he aged up because of time dilation. That's not how time dilation works. The world around you ages as you're moving through hyperspace, not you.
But they easily could have just said, oh, he's gone and he's having some time travel adventures. So maybe he just came back a bit earlier than, his age doesn't match. There are tons of ways you could have explained around that. But it's all stupid because the fact is, the reason the fans fell in love with Jonathan Kent as a concept, as a character, is because we were enjoying watching him grow up. Like Peter J. Tomasi's whole Superman story arc with the whole Jonathan and the family storyline, you go from like you I think it starts with one of his birthdays, and then Tomasi's run ends with his next birthday to say like that has been just so. I think it even starts and ends with a carnival in Hamilton County. And it's like it shows the passage of time, and I was really excited as a fan to get. I was just thinking, if they keep this up, if they just keep aging John up a year every couple of years, they could just age him up 1 year because comic time is different. That would have been a really exciting thing. Like, I wanted to see John when he became 13 and was finally able to join the Teen Titans because he'd been wanting to for so long. And then like 14 and 15, 16, when he graduates high school, going on to college. I was looking forward to all of that because I thought it's so much untapped potential for a Superman story, raising a son through all the important years of his life. And then Bendis was just like, oh, no, let's just skip that. He's an adult now.
Yeah.
Great, thanks for that. I would have rathered if he just left John off with Jor-El and just not touched him. Because then at least when he was done writing for the character, the next person to come in would have had an option. They would have been like, well, we could age him up now as Bendis wanted. But, he's not writing this anymore. I want John to still be a child. I'm going to write him as a kid.
Yeah,
leave the option open for the next writer. Otherwise, it's just fucking selfish.
Yeah, one of the things that Bendis did that I liked was the fact that he brought Connor back. Okay, I love Connor,
but I don't give him any kind of, I don't give him the credit for that because before Bendis even came over to DC, like they'd done a Super Sons Teen Titans crossover comic called Super Sons of Tomorrow or Super Sons of the Future, something like that, and John was in that. Not John. Connor was in that as an adult Superman from the future.
Yep.
And it was great. And you had all this stuff where Connor was talking about John and how he failed him and all this. And you was like, it was setting up like, I guess Connor's coming back at some point. Like, if they're gonna, if they're setting up what I think they are, Connor's going to be back, and him and John are going to sort of be brothers, and or at least very least they'll be sort of a cousin relationship. I was so excited, and Bendis may have brought Connor back finally, but he, it didn't fulfill the promise that was set up.
What really needed to happen was, the fact that they should have brought Connor back properly, setting him up to be the next Superman, Superman 2, And then, like Dick Grayson, he took Damian under his wing when he became Batman. Connor could have been the next Superman. He could have done the training with John, teach him things that, maybe Clark couldn't teach him.
Also, it would be a really brilliant opportunity to actually reference something like one of the best stories with Connor Kent, which is the Adventure Comics run, when he goes to Smallville and he's being raised in Smallville and he's like trying to work out who he is.
Yeah.
I think I've got those issues somewhere, and it's like,
it's
just a really, it's a Jeff Johns run. I think Francis Manapul drew the actual art in them.
Yeah, I love the fact that he's keeping a journal, and it's basically a what would Superman do, or what did Superman do, and then at the end, he realizes he was Superboy, so that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, it. They could have brought back Connor, and if John was still a kid, they could have made like the John and Connor brother storyline. They could have made it reference that plot line from the comics, and I don't know, it would have been great. It would have just, what a callback. And it'd be like taking something people love from the past and using it to build on the future. And isn't that exactly what comics have always done? They always, they're always pulling stuff from the past to build for a future.
Yeah, that's what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. Just look at stuff like, Secret Origin, Jeff Johns' Secret Origin. I know we talk about it a lot, but it is one of my favorite. I think it is my favorite origin story for Superman. But the fact that when Metallo shows up in that book, the fact that he looks like sort of the rejected John Byrne redesign Metallo, I think
it was the 70s.
Not John Byrne. It was it was the Kurt Swan redesign. That's what I meant.
Yep.
It was the really dodgy, Kurt Swan, one of the greats. His version of Atomic Skull, I still think is a really cool costume. Like, we both love that version of the suit. His Metallo just wasn't. It wasn't quite.
That's
enough.
Kurt was a great artist, and we are giving. We're not taking anything away by what I'm about to say.
Oh, wouldn't dream of it.
Kurt was a great artist. He had such a knack for building, tension, building this, building a world. And when you see Superman in flight in a Kurt Swan book, it's majestic, it's graceful, it's like a swan. But when it came down to him designing costumes for villains, he more often than not missed the mark. I mean, if you look at some of the characters that he did the design on, Vartox, Atomic Skull, Metallo.
I love Vartox. He's one of my favorite characters from that era, but his costume is ridiculous. That's why when we did our season 5, I had to redesign. I kept elements, but I was never just going to leave him in his original suit. It's not a great design. His Atomic Skull costume, I still, that's one that worked. But as you said, the Metallo and he didn't always work. I don't know why they couldn't just leave their looks for the villains as they were.
Well,
I don't think they needed redesigning particularly.
Well, remember, the Metallo that he designed in the 70s was a second Metallo. So it was trying to look, I hate to say it, they were probably pushing him to say, look at what Marvel is doing. Look at the designs they put out. And you could almost see that he was trying to emulate Marvel with that. But
it's one of the reasons, though, that I like stuff like that is, the Roger Corbin. I realize this is obviously the tie-in comic, not the actual thing, but it's to hand at the moment. But I like how simple they kept that version of Metallo's suit. Just put him in a big brown trench coat or something, and just stick a robot chest on him with a green glow, and maybe put a mask or something over his face, and that's basically all you need. You know,
It's definitely better
Metallo's not
than,
one that needs to be particularly complicated.
yeah. I mean, the design that they did for Metallo in the 70s is definitely better than, the first Metallo from the 50s,
Hmm.
which of course
Interesting.
first appeared in the first appearance of Supergirl issue of Action.
Yeah, I still think it's weird how it turns out. You know, the first issue with Supergirl is also the first Metallo issue.
Yep.
I've always found that kind of interesting. But yeah, I'm just looking at some of the pictures of Metallo, and yeah, he just looks like a gangster with a mustache. But when he opens his shirt, he's got like just a square metal plate
Yeah.
on his chest. You know, it's
So but then again, that was the height of technology in the 50s.
yeah. And I suppose,
Current.
you know, some of the more modern ones where they have it and it looks like it hurts where it's in his chest, and they put like little red pit bits around where it all attaches to make it look painful.
Yeah.
Like they couldn't get away with that back then, so they had to sort of sanitize it for the kids. But I don't know,
Yeah.
this they still could have done something a bit more interesting with it, I think.
Yeah.
But you know,
But some characters that Kurt designed, like Carb Brack,
I don't know Carbrak particularly.
or Amalak. These guys look like they were wearing costumes that were from the 1930s.
Yeah, I'm looking at him. He does look like a Buck Rogers sort of character.
You know,
And he's got the sort of weird bits on the shoulders there that
which
look just like
those.
Vartox's best as well. So you can
Yeah, I
tell
mean
it's a
those
Kurt Swan design.
those bits aren't bad. Okay, it's just you know.
It's all purple. He's wearing like multiple belts around his waist. Like
Yeah.
it's not terrible as a costume. It's just very of its time, I suppose.
Yeah. But the time it was of was 30 years before that issue came out.
Yeah, just a bit outdated.
Yeah.
So we've gotten really offhand. Are there any other figures you would like to show before we sign off?
Well, these were all the ones in the box, so
Okay.
I think if
You've
we do,
left some for next time.
yes, if we do a part two, which we're probably going to do, I I definitely think that there's some that I can show. Like I've done Christopher Reeve
I would like to see that. Definitely.
using a Christopher Reeve head.
Oh, so you took one of the official Chris Reeves heads and put it on a new body, did you?
Yes, I got somebody was
Yeah.
selling the Mezco 1 in 12 heads loose. So I got one of the more serious looking heads. Not the
Have you made
smirky and
like
not.
the dirty sort of grungy Superman 3 evil Christopher Reeve? Is that what you've made?
I made that too.
Okay, good. I was going to say you have to, if you're going to make a Chris Reeve toy, that's the one to make. You find a sort of pissed off looking Chris Reeve head,
Well, that again,
or just add some stubble even, and that would be enough.
well, I couldn't figure out how to do the stubble. I just built a body out of parts.
Yeah.
'Cause
The
remember,
only way I could think to do the stubble, you'd have to get one of those like really fine brushes that's literally like 2 or 3 hairs on the brush, and literally do each individual little spot of stubble one by one, and it would take fucking forever.
yeah. My friend Greg, he does customs too.
Alternatively, you could also just get some of the skin tone paint and just put just a tiny little bit of brown into it, just to darken it up, just so it's just like a slight tone darker than the rest of the skin, and then just paint
Yeah.
that
But
part.
what Greg found doing customs, and he usually does 4-inch scale, 3 3/4 inch GI Joe scale.
Mm.
He's found using this stuff called Nuln oil.
Right.
You put it on, and then it has sort of the feel of stubble, and then you could add a little bit of paint on top of it to give it
that sounds like a good idea.
But I didn't want to ruin the head doing that.
Yeah, you'd have to have multiple heads just so if you needed to, you could throw one away. Also, if I was to do a Christopher Reeve Superman 3 evil version, I would have to lighten his hair up so it's brown, because Chris Reeve refused to put the black in his hair for 3. but then also grey out the sides, like the temples slightly, because he looks like he's
has
got brown hair,
strands of hair sticking out here and there.
Yeah, it'd be quite difficult, but I think it would be one that's worth doing. I'll look forward to seeing your version of it when we do another one of these videos. That'll be fun.
Yep.
Don't know when it will be at this point. We'll probably wait a little while just so we're not bombarding people with just the same videos all the time. And as we say, next week we'll probably be doing a commentary on Brimstone. So yeah, if you're a fan of that episode, check that out next week.
Which, as you can tell from this box, I am.
Yeah. I just haven't seen it in a very long time, you know. I remember liking it quite a bit. It's just, for whatever reason, it's just one that I've not gone back to for a while.
Yeah, Brimstone is basically a supernatural version of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
That's all he really is.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, next week, that'll be fun. You know, whenever, that's why when we do our commentaries, they're not in any discernible order. It's it's just when we feel like watching an episode that we've not seen for a while, we do a commentary. It gives us a good excuse to rewatch an episode. And yeah, also, if anybody out there have any requests for stuff that we do commentaries on, or even stuff like, topics for the podcast, if you have like a question that you think would make a good podcast topic that we can try and get a whole show out of, leave us a comment. We're always happy to oblige.
Yeah.
Other than that, be sure to like, share, subscribe, ring that bell icon, all that good stuff. Leave us, but the main important thing, please leave us some comments. Apparently the comments are the thing that YouTube looks at for its algorithm more than anything. It's viewer engagement or something, I think they call it.
Yeah.
So yeah, the comments do actually help us get seen by more people. Plus, we just love interacting with you in the comments. So, it's fun for us reading them and responding.
And Mr. Carlin, if you're still out there watching, I would love to hear what you think about my customs that are based upon the special.
I'm sure he'll love them. I mean, it's I think it's got to be quite flattering, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just accidentally clicked mute. So yeah, as I was trying to sign off then, I realised I was muted. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to tune in again next time. Goodbye.